last week, it was becoming clear, all right, I've got more in my head about this story than my co-authors could possibly have yet. And so one of the things that I did was I started from the story treatment that I read last week, and I pulled all of my books that are being drawn from on there, and I created bib card fronts. And so it's the bib card front, like all bib cards, it has like, what is this book? Who's the author? When was it published? When was the copyright? And I put my own purpose for how does this relate to Roanoke? So right now I'm just looking at the timeless way of building, and the purpose for Roanoke is that it informs the colonists, also known as the ancestors, design of the common and private spaces that they built. Just one of many. And so there are no main cards from any of them really yet. That's kind of the beauty of this entire endeavor for me. It's helping me make sense of all these things that I have found so interesting. And it's an amazing blessing that you all seem to find it interesting enough to want to play along. So, all right, I'll just read out what I added to the story treatment. So, who are the ancestors and what is this place? A fundamental conceit of this story is that when man begins to travel and populate other worlds that support human life, there will be opportunities for people to attempt to create their vision of utopia. The ancestors get this opportunity, and play is their way. So the ancestors are a cross-functional group of mystics. So cross-functional is a term of art in my world as an Agile coach. When you're putting together the best team to write the software or to build a particular product, you want to get all of the people across all of the disciplines that you need. And sometimes if you wanted to get all the masters, it would be too expensive a team. And so some people also need to be able to straddle certain fields. But in any case, this is a cross-functional group of mystics. They are a diverse group of geniuses in different fields, and they are united in their love of humanity and in their profound playfulness. So Grandpa is one of these ancestors, and these people are good-hearted people. They each attained their mystical insights through different paths. And this is my own personal conceit. It just kind of comes from my observation of what I've seen other people do and what goes on with me. And that is, if you look deeply into anything, you're going to start to see the divine in it. Mm-hmm. So sacred geometry, the timeless way of building. I could go on and on. You just look deeply into something, and that's kind of what I've been collecting accidentally, are people who have gone deep in these diverse fields. So the ancestors attained their mystical insights through different paths: mathematics, physics, music, poetry, art, architecture, computer science, philosophy, theology, botany, biochemistry, cosmology, and games. And it's a broad spectrum. They each see the divine in their areas of deep inquiry, and they revere the divine in what others see more clearly than they. So they are driven by a shared desire for mankind to reach untapped, transcendent potential through divine, collaborative diversity. So I view them as a supergroup. So supergroup is a name that was given basically in the 60s and 70s when rock groups started to be formed from other star rock groups. So Emerson, Lake and Palmer is one example. Led Zeppelin is another. These people were already massive stars, and then they create something even more amazing together. So this is a supergroup, and games are their art form. The world in which Roanoke takes place, whatever they end up calling it, help, is their masterwork. They design the world as a place with a way for humanity to discover profound truth through playing together. So I think that I've got an end note that I have been breezing over because I haven't really, it's main cards that don't exist yet, but I just want to give a little preview of the end note that goes there. Discover profound truth through playing together. So one of the bib cards is from this book called Reality is Broken by Jane McGonigal. She's a game designer and a futurist. She has a fascinating TED Talk where she talks about this thing. She's also created this thing called Super Better, where people can kind of gamify their recovery in difficult situations through the support of other people. So she's all about, well, what reality is broken. The idea about reality is broken is that the fuddy-duddies in the world, and I was one of them, who viewed, oh, these kids and their games as wasting their time. She's here to tell you that if you get some of these very, very brilliant game players together, you will see a level of, especially cooperative games, you will see a level of deep collaboration like nothing. And reality is broken because they get into the workplace and there's nothing like that. Collaboration in the workplace is very hierarchical and reporting status and that sort of thing. And it's not what they experience when they go home and they play these games. And so part of that's a great point that she makes. And then she's also been part of designing games that are out in the world. Oh. And they draw, people, well, wow, they find themselves they're in the middle of the game and they get drawn into solving the problem or the puzzle of the game. So she's a huge inspiration as a backstory for this supergroup, the Ancestors. I kind of fancy that Jane McGonigal is an ancestor of one of them. So when you create a game in today's world, if you were to create a video game, there's somebody who's in charge of the user experience. And there are people who are in charge of user experience of all software, but the user experience of a game is how do you know where you stand? And how do you know, are you about to die? And how do you interact with the world so you know what you're supposed to do? What's the user experience? So Grandpa in the Ancestors is their user experience designer. And in the world of user experience, they use the term design language. So you develop a design language for your game. And an element of his design language in which he takes special delight is hiding things in plain sight.
Oh.
Okay.
So thanks to Grandpa, the world is strewn with functional Easter eggs. What are they? I don't know. We're going to figure that out. It's not the hiding that he loves so much. Is the players smack on their own forehead when a thing is seen to have been there all along. And Jenna discovers Grandpa through this very gesture. So the Ancestors are great at what they do, but they are not perfect. They're human. They have gaps and blind spots. By the time of our story, they are long dead. So all does not go according to their plan, but the experience of this world delivers more joy than sorrow. And the facts behind the world's design and the designers, all the things that I just said, the people who nobody necessarily knows when they go live in this place, that's what they're about to get into. It's not like Westworld, where it's an amusement park as a planet. It's a place to live. And it's, so it's that it's not written in the brochure that, in fact, this is a game.
Mm.
So the denizens of the game world discover this aspect of its nature through interacting with it, and our readers discover it with them. Hopefully they'll be just that little bit ahead of them that makes story uncovering a puzzle fun. So there are a lot of main cards to come out of what I've just said there.
Terrific. And you also supplied us with a bibliography of books that you intend to draw on for constructing the world from your contribution to it. And what we have to decide as a group is, are these people really long dead? Because didn't Jenna meet the grandfather, and didn't the grandfather communicate with her? And haven't they discovered a mechanism? Haven't we already established that they have a private communication channel apart from the link? So maybe dead isn't exactly the right word to describe our ancestors.
Yeah. Well, yes, in the human body form, they're long dead. But so when I read the part of the story treatment last time, one of the links that I will be sending to you is based on an interview and a write-up of that interview that's told by a very amusing writer named Tim Urban. He did this interview of Elon Musk and talking about the vision for Neuralink. Right now, in a practical way, Neuralink is being used to help people with impairments. Help people who are paralyzed be able to move things, be able to interact with computers, that sort of stuff. But an idea behind, the big idea, because Elon Musk is nothing if not a creator of big ideas, is that the Neuralink could be a place to offload your memory. Offload your memory. And so if you've done that, is it dead, or is it something that can interact in some other way? So that's kind of where I see that she's going to discover, and it might be a little sad when she does, that she's interacting with his Neuralink.
Okay, very interesting, because of course that affects us for world building and story designing, because for me, I'm all about the characters, and for me that means I immediately want to know about motivation, and that helps a lot to know that the ancestors' motivation was primarily curiosity, and which they call play, but just being wide open to the adventure of learning and seeing what the universe has to offer. Maybe they found something that was a bit dangerous, or maybe they found a higher place to be. We don't know. But because they are long dead, their motivations can only be intuited unless someone else actually gets the link in and finds out that it's more of a living link than they realized. But then will that entail a choice? Can they participate in both worlds, or will they have to choose which world to live in?
Yeah.
Which is going to be an interesting thing. But motivations, those who are still in the world making choices based on personal motivations, are those primarily going to be the researchers?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, they're actually our protagonists.
Okay.
And the ancestors are the world. That's how I'm seeing it right now.
I keep seeing, sorry, I keep seeing this Ray Bradbury Star Trek thing. One of the episodes, they have the people, the light people, the people who had so embrace the intellectual and the mental part of existence that their their bodies just disappeared. They just, they no longer inhabited these shells,
Uh-huh.
you know?
Yeah.
And you see them on this planet. Actually, they descend down and they're standing on this rock talking to Kirk and his people. And they are godlike, but not, you know, not, because all they're about is sharing what they've discovered, what they found.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Ray Bradbury, what a mind he had. I mean,
I know.
you know, this is wow. Okay. So there's that. I when you were speaking, Julianne, I just kept seeing that image, that scene over and over and over again. So it's not about death, but it's another form of existence,
Right.
another form.
Well, you know, not that I am a mystic, but I become more familiar with mysticism by the day. And what they tell you is there is a certain stage of enlightenment where you have a completely different view of death than you did going in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I'm convinced that these people have that.
Mm.
Do I know what it is? No.
It's all right. We'll figure it out in post.
We'll figure it out. Yeah. Yeah. And there's, so one thing that's really important to me, and you know, we'll just say it here. I'm not bringing this story as you guys helping me write my story. Because if I wanted to write this story by myself, I think I could do it, but it wouldn't be the same.
Mm.
I really want to write it with you. I want as soon as your own references and your, you know, Mel, you found a place for it that is in a place that you already have, and you're all going to find something, and then we're gonna have debates. No, he wouldn't do that. Yes, she would.
Yep.
There's nothing better than when people start talking about your imaginary friends as if they're real people.
Yeah.
It's the best.
Yeah.
Well, I'll help us all deduce a character profile diagram for the character. And I realize now that the character profile diagram is a Lukasa, because each character trait put on one of those character profile places is tied to a story that explains why that trait belongs to them and why it's in that place, why it's a wing trait or a rudder trait or whatever it is. And when you touch those points, and I even tell my students, touch them and let the story come back to mind. And all you have to do is go, if you want to reconnect with a scene you had to drop because you only had 10 minutes to write, pick up the cards of the two people, touch the points, and you can pick up where you left off with the scene. You'll be in the right emotional standpoint. And then that will also be helping us formulate our debates of whether they would or wouldn't do X or Y, because we'll be able to see it in the light of the character profile diagram. Say, oh, well, if he did this one, that means it's now shifting down to a rudder trait, isn't it? Oh, no, I think he's going to do that one. It's going to stay in the wing position for a little longer. And that's, you know, it'll be able to give us insight in our inner debates. So I'm excited about that.
You're going to have to add that link now, Kathleen, to that card, the Lukasa card. You're going to have to add a link to your diagram.
Yes.
Oh, yes.